Ready? All right. Well, welcome everybody. This is our Start Canada weekly call. What I'm going to ask right now is that everybody mutes themselves because if there's some background noise, it gets a little bit distracting. But thank you so much for coming on to our call. We appreciate you taking out the time out of your Sunday when there's a million other things you could be doing. My name is Lina Thompson, and I am coming to you from Barrie, Ontario. A quick story with Isagenix. I reluctantly started 4 years ago for the products, and I did it on a mission to prove to my mom that it didn't work. Can I get everybody to mute themselves? One of us behind the wheel. So I started the product 4 years ago and was able to lose over 70 pounds and really saw the opportunity last year after coming to Celebration. So I can't stress the importance of events and what that does. And my life has completely changed 360 since then. I'm sure a lot of you guys can relate. So why are we on this call? We are a group of individuals with the common vision to ignite all young people to own their lives physically and financially, and through our contributions, create a freedom and a lasting legacy. How many of you guys can get excited about that? Awesome. So the purpose of this call is to get us together and to provide the tools and the support and coaching and inspiration so that you have a belief of 10 out of 10 in all areas, so that you feel unstoppable and confident to go out and really share this incredible gift. So a little quick disclaimer, what you hear, our company is Superfood Nutrition. You might hear stories of weight loss as well as financial income results. What you put into this is what you get out of it. We are Superfood Nutrition, and we know that with Isagenix, we do not cure, treat, prevent, diagnose any diseases, but we know that when we put good food into our body, miracles can happen. As well as you're going to hear some business stories. So it is network marketing. So what you put into this is also what you'll get out. So everybody's results will be different in that sense. So I'm going to jump right into this call starting with the starter in the spotlight. This woman is absolutely incredible. I got to meet her finally after hearing so much about her. She is from Barrie. She owns Hot Bod Fitness, and she has a rockin' body. Like, she's like on my vision board for goals. And watch out for this girl because she'll be in the Start 1000. So she is coming at you. So everybody raise the roof for Miss Christy Toms.
Awesome. Can everyone hear me okay? We're good? Awesome. Thank you so much, Lina. You're so amazing. Thanks for all the kind words. I'm super stoked to be the starter in the spotlight, so thank you so much for having me. As Lina said, I am an owner of a fitness studio in Barrie called Hot Bod Fitness, and I am a personal trainer specialist, nutrition and weight loss specialist, and I'm also a fitness competitor, so I do have a pretty thorough understanding when it comes to nutrition. So that being said, is it cool if I share my ISIS story with you guys? Awesome. So I started my fitness business about 5 years ago, and at that time I was going through university, and I was also working a fun bartending job. And after 2 years, I started getting pretty busy with my business, so I decided to open my own location. So I was super, super stoked about this, but it was quite expensive. So I did have to continue bartending to pay off the debt of opening and, you know, all those student loans. And I'm sure that we can all relate to the evil student loans that we have hanging out. So after opening, I got busy. I was working long hours, running fitness classes, personal training, and also doing admin work just because I couldn't afford to hire anyone at the time. And I was still serving intoxicated people until about 4 in the morning, or I was done work about 4 in the morning. So that was 3 days a week. So I was working a lot. And not that I didn't have fun doing that, but I was starting to get pretty tired. So 6 months after opening, I was still eating healthy, and I know all about eating healthy, exercising consistently, but kind of stopped getting results. It was almost like a reverse effect. Like, I was doing more, trying to do more, but I was gaining weight and I felt very stressed out. It was super weird, but I'm sure that we've all kind of been there where it's like you're trying and nothing's happening. So I really started to lose motivation in business and in working out. My stress was through the roof, and I wasn't really sleeping at night, but I was exhausted. you know, that feeling when you're like looking at your clock and you're like, did I even sleep or did I just close my eyes for a lot of hours? You don't even know. Raise your hand if you've been there, where you just don't even know if you slept or you haven't slept through the night or you're just tired all day. So anyways, at that point, I was introduced to Isagenix. So after a couple weeks later, I was really losing motivation. I felt the door of my studio. And this was 2 years ago, and she introduced me to Isagenix, and I was pretty skeptical about it, and I had heard of it before. I was never really interested. I ate whole foods, and I totally didn't believe in the whole meal replacement thing. But the magic words I heard from Tina were less stress and better sleep, and I thought, you know what, 30-day money-back guarantee. I can't really lose. I might as well try it out. So 2 weeks later after that, I dropped some weight, felt energized again. I was more motivated. I was sleeping better, which was so awesome. And from there, I was just absolutely hooked. And I thought, like, imagine the results my clients could get, my family could get, my friends. I had been writing meal plans for a couple years, and the results that my clients and friends and family have gotten from Isagenix in comparison to a whole food meal plan are like, Isagenix blows it out of the water completely, because it's easy, it's convenient, it's nutritious, and it's literally the best tasting product I've ever had. And I'm sure we can all agree. It's like you look forward to having your shakes in the morning or for dinner or whenever you're having it, or late at night. So boom, from that point, like, I got active, I started sharing. I was able to quit my bartending job about 3 months after I started sharing Isagenix, which was so cool because I had been there for about 5 years at that time. So I was really excited about that. Isagenix has given me the ability to help more people that weren't physically in front of me, like, you know, right there in front of me. I could help anyone from anywhere. I could help people get better results. And most importantly, I started making an income. That paid for part of my wedding that I had coming up, celebration fully paid by Isagenix, and I was able to trade less time for money, which was really, really cool. And the coolest thing, like, I remember the very first time I woke up in the morning and I checked my Isopulse and I had cycled for the very first time, and I was like, whoa, this is the coolest thing. I just made like money while I was sleeping. It's like residual income. Like, I know we all get excited about that. That's just the coolest thing ever, because I've never had that before. So being in the health and fitness industry, I've never been so passionate about a product, and Isagenix is amazing. Like, I can't go a day without it. And I want to end with, we all are on different journeys, and I know some of us will excel faster, some of us will be a little slower, but just most importantly is to never give up, because as long as you believe, you'll achieve. And one thing that made me believe more was going to events, and that's a huge thing I wanted to put out there. Was up for like a year and a half, and Tina knows I always like kind of didn't really want to go to events. I was just like, oh, like, I like the products a lot and I want to share them, and I've been sharing them and I'm doing okay. But once I went to events, it was like a game changer from that point. And when I went to Celebration Las Vegas, it was like the best time ever, and it made my belief rise from like here to like, you can't even see where my hand is right now. So I wanted to end with that, and I really appreciate the time, and I hope that it gave someone a little bit of inspiration for their business.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Christy. Can we all raise the roof for that? I love your go-getter attitude. Like, that inspires me, and I totally relate to, it took me 3 years to get to my first event, so I can definitely speak to how powerful that is. And I know that a lot of your story I can totally relate to, so I'm sure a lot of people can. You know, everything from being exhausted to student loans, like, that is a huge thing for us starters. So thank you so much for sharing that. So without further ado, we are going to bring in our very special guest in our call today. He is a 4-star Golden Circle, 1-star executive, and a START ambassador. So this is super exciting for us to have him on the call. A little bit about him: he's got 15 years in the network marketing industry and was really looking for a place to call home. And I'll let him share more of his story, but he made a commitment to Isagenix after seeing what we were all about, and has now, with his wife, been able to create financial freedom, and with their daughter have the opportunity to help other families to work hard and achieve the same freedom. So can we all give a huge raise the roof to Jason Lew?
Woohoo! Go Jason! What's going on, guys? Thanks for having me. I know it's probably late for you guys, probably close to 8:10 here. But thanks for having me on. And Tina, thanks for kind of asking. And I appreciate, Lina, for you kind of doing the introduction and having me on the call here today.
Awesome. Thanks so much. So I know that kind of the way that we're going to structure the call with you is question and answer, if that's okay. But I would love if you could really share your story with us.
Sure. Some of you guys know somewhat of the story here, but I got started in network marketing at 18. Was really shy, really introverted. I don't know how many of you guys can relate, but I was more on the side of, if I really had to be social, I guess I could be, but I'd rather be by myself, study books. And growing up in a Chinese family, I'm Chinese American, I'm 5th generation. I'm out here in San Francisco, California. And culturally, I was somewhat taught to not look people in the eye. So I had a really hard time, I think, connecting with people, which is why I think it was such a hard struggle for me to start. But essentially, I thought I was going to go into either being an engineer, a doctor of some sort, or a lawyer. That's pretty much all you get coming from a Chinese family, is you're one or the other. And so my out was going into veterinary medicine. And I thought I was going to play with puppies and kitties and, you know, get to play with like small teacup pigs and things like that. And they take you first day in, like, to go see a neuter and spay, and that was the end of my my veterinary career. So I'm sitting there 18, which I'm sure some of you guys can relate, in college, trying to figure out what my major is. And luckily enough, my dad handed me this book called Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. How many of you guys have read anything by Robert? So if you guys haven't, I recommend just read anything by Robert Kiyosaki, especially Cash Flow Quadrants. And Rich Dad Poor Dad, if you guys haven't really had a chance. But in there, they really talk a lot about passive income and leveraged income. And I was like, I love this idea, you know, making money while you sleep. This sounds incredible. So I go back to school and I'm looking around and I'm, you know, at the time thinking, okay, maybe I'll go into business if it's not going to be veterinary medicine. And I literally went to my counselor and said, okay, where's the class on entrepreneurship? Did anyone else ever try that? Anyone in college right now, by show of hands? Out of college? Okay, so I actually went to go see, like, where's the entrepreneurial school? And there just wasn't one. It was just like, here's how you can work in a business, but here's not literally how to start a business. So lo and behold, to me, I ended up going down to see a presentation. I had no clue what it was. Got dragged by my roommates. And on the back of one of those kind of chalkboards that you flip over and flip back over, one side was organic chemistry, the other side was compensation planning and network marketing. And I fell in love with the idea. And at the time, it was long distance, paging, internet access, all that fun stuff. It was like we're selling dial-up internet access. That was 15 years ago. And I was like, man, if I can just get 7,000 customers, it's like $10,000 a month. This is going to be so easy because there's at least 30,000 people on my college campus here. And I failed so bad. Like, I literally fell on my face. My first 3.5 years, my biggest check in a month, which I'm sure some of you did this in your first month in Isagenix, was $350. So I definitely wasn't rolling in it. But around year 3.5 was kind of make or break. I found some good mentors. I finally started to get some traction. And probably my 4th year, I made, I think, $33,000. That was like the big deal. Like, I made enough to like not have a part-time job. And then I think it was my 5th year that I finally made a 6-figure income. So it was like nothing, 30,000, and then it went to 100,000. And was fortunate enough to become a top incomer of a company. And that company got sold, changed the product, changed the compensation plan. So about 6 years ago, and I know this is the long version, my wife and I were in the place where we were looking for a network marketing company. And we ended up looking at 30 separate network marketing companies before deciding on Isagenix. If you want to talk about why we chose, we can definitely talk about that. And kind of planted our flag here. Susan Sly is our kind of mentor upline, and kind of our big thing was I wanted to be a full-time dad. My wife wanted to be home, and at the time I was traveling, 15 days of the month. It was just nuts. So to have the balance to be home, to create an income, to be home, and now we've got a little one that's 4, and it's incredible to be literally 5 feet away, changing diapers, home at mealtime and dinner time, and just not missing out on those big moments. So if anything, I think the biggest reward for us is the fact that we get to give this product to people. But from a personal standpoint, like, what I'm really passionate about is helping other families have the time to, whether it's travel, but if there's young parents, like, it's just to be home and not to miss out on all those good things. So hopefully that wasn't too winded.
No, that was so awesome. And I have a lot of questions that come up, and I actually asked in our START committee if there are people who had specific questions. So there are. My first question to you is, do you have advice for people who are, like, if I'm talking to somebody who's with another company, like, why did you choose Isagenix, and how do you approach those people?
All right, so let's take this one in kind of two steps here. So we can talk about what to say to network marketers, but I'm going to separate it out and kind of talk, if it's okay with you, why I chose Isagenix first. So as I mentioned, we looked at 30 separate companies. We flew out to 8. And I was actually asked this question the other day by another network marketer. I said, why'd you choose Isagenix? And I looked at 5 areas. I looked at compensation, I looked at product, I looked at management, I looked at training, and obviously I looked at culture. So those are the 5 major requirements out there. And there were a lot of good companies out there, but they didn't have literally a 10 out of 10 on all 5 areas, at least from our perspective. So I think one of the things that's really unique about Jim and Kathy Coover, and someone asked, I'm sure you guys are familiar with Warren Buffett. Someone asked, Warren Buffett, they said, how do you choose a company, right? How do you go out there and determine which companies to invest into? And he kind of thought about the idea here for a moment. He said, you know what, I do my due diligence like most investors do. And if the numbers work, the numbers crunch, he's like, that's great. But he said the last minute decision, the last part of the decision goes into me sitting down with the owners and sitting across from the table, looking at them in the eye. And what he really wants to know is, do the owners love the money more than the business, or do they love the business more than the money? And I think what's really unique about Jim and Kathy, and Eric included in this, is they love the business more than the money. And that's a really rare thing to find in this industry. And I think it only has happened because they've gone through the heartaches of what it means to lose it. And I think sometimes you don't know the responsibility until you've gone through that kind of dip or dark side of it. And what I mean is, Jim was on the back end of network marketing companies for 30 plus years. He literally was the CFO of a company that went from nothing to $1 billion, in 18 months. And he understands, which I think most companies lack, is he understands how a network marketing company can grow really fast. It can also shrink really fast as well. So he was great from that perspective. But I think Kathy brings a different side of it. Kathy Coover, who was a 7-figure earner, so made $1 million a year in 3 separate network marketing companies, and only left those companies because each of them shut down on her. So I think when you look at Jim and Kathy, 1, they didn't need the money, but 2, I think the pure fact that Kathy understands the responsibility of what's sometimes most expedient, most profitable for a company. I know I'm kind of going left field here. What's most expedient, what's most profitable for a company isn't always what's best for the field. In fact, more often than not, what is least profitable for the company is what's best for the field. Creating great products, creating a compensation plan that's going to pay over time, creating all of these different things that we take sometimes for granted, I think, doesn't necessarily create a fast startup, a bang startup, a fly-by-night company that's just going to rock it. But what you do get is kind of this long version of, and this is why we've had such great steady growth over the years here, is because of, I think, Jim and Kathy. So big part was Jim and Kathy, and that culture kind of trickles down. Compensation was really, really unique. I think that getting paid through literally infinite levels until you max out a center and you have the ability to go do it again, your volume doesn't flush. I was in a compensation plan where I got paid through 8 levels. And on my 9th level, you got paid like 0.5%. And essentially, if you helped more people make 6 figures, you started getting cut out of your pay, which was bizarre, I know, if you guys have only been in Isagenix. Also, I was in a company where at the end of every month, the volume would flush. So all of you guys are on auto ship. You guys know that at the end of the month, your volume banks. That wasn't the case in my last network marketing company. So really big differentiations in terms of compensation plan. Product, I don't think I need to tell you guys why it's so great. Training, same thing. The biggest decision for me was culture. And I think what really made Isagenix special was you guys. If you look around our culture and company, you don't see slick salespeople. You don't see the, here, check out my Rolex and all the diamonds that are sitting on top of the watch here. Like, you don't get that culture. And that's not to say that having nice things is a bad thing. It's not at all. But it's built on a culture of you get to be authentically you. You get to be someone that's the best version of you. Like, we're not looking for you to be someone you're not. We want you to be the best version of whatever that means to you. And I think that's a really unique culture and a really special thing that as we grow, I think as a culture, especially here in START, we are the future of this company. We are the next generation that will take on this mantle. So that value, that I think integrity, that sometimes what may not be most expedient or best in terms of your bottom line, but it's what allows you to sleep at night and put your head on the pillow with integrity, look your kids in the eyes, look your families in the eyes, is what makes this culture so special. So anyways, that was kind of why I chose the company. And do you want me to answer the second part? Like, what do I say to network marketers?
Yeah.
I think that with network marketers, there isn't a perfect thing to say. I get this question a lot saying, you've been in network marketing, what made you make the decision to come here? And the truth was, I got introduced to Isagenix 4 years before I came. So I had a friend of mine that said, you've got to check out what this company's doing. And I was so far deep in my company, culture, everything else, that I was focused. I was laser focused, but I saw it. And I thought it had a great opportunity, but I was focused on what I was doing. It was that seed that was planted that when it came time to look, I came around and looked. I think the second thing too to kind of consider here is people will go, if you're looking at people that are in network marketing, people will go where they have relationships, but also they are going to go to a culture and a community where they think a leader, a team, an organization is going to add value to their life. I can learn a new technique, I can learn a new way to build, I can grow quicker and faster. Someone is like me, someone's going to hold my hand and show me how to do that. And that's not to say that you have to come in with this mentality of, man, I can fix everything right now, but that does kind of just speak to the idea that you've always got to be constantly growing and developing yourself as a leader. With all that being said, I think that with network marketers, it's always the question of, are you open to looking? Like, look, I know you're in this company right now, but are you open to taking a peek at what I'm doing? And if the answer is no, I'm not big on the arm twisting and hand holding and kind of just nudging them saying, well, I just made $500 this week, you should come over here and look. There's not, I don't know. I think if you convince, you're always going to have to convince. So I think part of it is just seeing if they're open. And if they are, I think the product is one of the best places to start, to be really honest. I mean, some might be interested in a compensation plan, but I think what makes Isagenix so unique is kind of the integrity and authenticity that goes into people loving that product. So if you can I've had network marketers come in because they had a great experience, much like a Jimmy Smith, that they fell in love with the product first and were like, well, now my friends want to know what I do. So yeah.
That's so awesome. Very helpful. How did you structure your day when you were starting to build, and how do you structure your day now? Like, is there a certain routine that you follow?
Yeah, great question. I think when I first started building, being young, single, and not having much responsibility outside of, at the time, I guess you could say really early in the day class, it was like build whenever you can. There was no such thing as, for me at least, a schedule. It was like, start your day. If there's a meeting, go take it. Answer my phone all the way until midnight. It was all that. I think that as time has gotten tighter, just becoming a parent, I think it's much more challenging. But I think it also allows you to get more done in the day. I think that for me now, there's a big transition, and how many of you guys are, just by show of hands, can I see who's got a career right now? Anyone have like other careers that they're working right now outside of Isagenix? Okay, so maybe about half of you guys are working careers right now. I think sometimes it's easier to build in Isagenix when you have something else you're doing. Typically, people that are busy are going to get more done during the day because you only have a finite time to get that work done. So you got like your list, your calls to make, like these are the people like I'm calling, like this is the list, I don't know if you guys can see it. These are a list of people this weekend that I'm like trying to follow up with right now. You have a very like concise time that you need to work with these people. I think when you have full days, or when people make the transition, say, I'm going to go full time, you just don't know what to do with that time. So for me now, it is very structured, it's very routine, and it's a little bit boring just because I almost feel like going to the gym, if I don't know what I'm going to do going into the gym before I show up, the workout's almost very willy-nilly. It's like I'm going to do this and a little bit of that, a little bit of this, and how it depends on how I feel. But if it's very structured, it helps. So I have very strict hours. So I start my day typically around 8:30, 9 o'clock is when I'll start calls, and I'll go into about noon. From noon to 2, I'm completely off. So phone's off. It's not even near me. If someone texts me, calls me, it doesn't matter. Phone's off. That's typically time with family. And then from 2, 7 o'clock, again, I'll open up the window, calls, work, everything else. 9 o'clock, I have to pick it up again after my daughter goes down for bedtime shower. I can, again, dive back in. And then the biggest thing for me is putting the time in for my personal prospecting. So beginning of every week, Sunday night typically is when I will structure my prospecting time in for the week. Because I find if I don't do that, everyone else ends up on my schedule. So typically it's prospecting. I'll chunk out the times throughout the week. And then obviously the big team stuff. So like a team call like this or a leadership call, those things get blocked in first. And whatever else is there is kind of what's left for my team. So I don't know if that helps you.
Yeah, that totally helps. That's awesome. One question that came up with a couple people who asked was, what was your biggest aha moment or your biggest, earliest, strongest breakthrough?
Biggest, I wish I could say that the ahas have stopped and that the learning has, you get to a point where you just stop learning, but honestly, you just keep getting smacked upside the head. Is kind of the way this journey works. I'll share with you 2 things, and you guys can take these however you want to shape them and use them. So very early on in my experience, some of you guys know this, some of you guys may not, I decided to leave school, which is not something I recommend necessarily. It just was where I was at in my path. 3.5 years in, making $350 a month, I decided to leave school to pursue network marketing full time. And my parents thought it was kind of a phase. They've always been super supportive. We ended up at my cousin's wedding, 200 people. I had an uncle literally stand up and berate my parents publicly, saying, I can't believe you allowed your child to make this decision, and then went on to use much more colorful words to essentially berate me and say, hey, look, you're ruining your life. It's going to be over for you. And I came from a family where I'm an only child, but my cousins went to Harvard, Yale, Stanford, Carnegie Mellon. I mean, the top schools in the United States here. And so it was kind of like this public just pointing the finger at, you're an idiot. I think it was painful at the time, but I think one of the best experiences that come out of these challenging situations are, it gives you the muscles to grow. And what I learned about that is more often than not, when someone is that vehemently and that strongly opposed to what you're doing, it's less about you. In fact, I would say it has little to do with you. It has everything to do with that person. And more often than not, typically what they're seeing in you is something they don't like about themselves. So, for example, I had an uncle that the person that berated me, I don't know his complete story, but potentially, right, me going out and doing something out of the norm was maybe something that he wished he would have done when he was younger. And so by me standing out and doing something different, typically maybe it comes from a place of love, maybe it comes from a place of, I've built my life on this idea that you have to follow this straight and narrow path, and you're here disrupting it. It challenges my values. And so more often than not, it's just you're reminding them something that they may not like about themselves, but it has nothing to do with you. And I think learning that lesson very young has helped me throughout the years, because the more public you become, I think especially with social media, the more you get out there and connect with people, there will always, no matter who you are, how great you are, what your intention and integrity is, there will always be somebody, unfortunately, that may not like what you do. And if you want everyone to love you, I hate to tell you, entrepreneurship may not be your cup of tea. There will be thousands of people that you will change their life for the better. They will love you for it, but you will always get 1 or 2 out there that are going to rain on your parade. So I think learning that was a really big aha for me. And I think the second thing I'll share with you guys is I always thought that you create this big reason why, you dream about why you want to go out there and build this business. And so for me early on, it was, I wanted to kind of prove from that experience that you didn't have to take the straight and narrow, that you could still make it being an entrepreneur. And I also had a father that was very much of, he owned a small business. I mean, he got me introduced to, Tony Robbins really young, Robert Kiyosaki really young, but he never took that big step. And I guess I really wanted to prove to my father that it was possible. I wanted to help him along as well too. And I thought that reason was going to get me through to 6 figures. I thought that reason was going to get me through to breakthrough. And what it ended up being, the jump from not making money to making some money to making significant money, came from a really painful experience. I had an upline in my last company that literally said that, you know, your total SHIT, your total crap, you're never going to amount to anything and you're never going to make it. And I hate to say it, but that kind of flipped the switch and said, you know what, I'm going to find a way. I'm going to create a way. And I go back and, you know, I look back at that experience and it's the same thing. I mean, it was, you know, maybe that was his way of motivating it. Maybe he was just a jerk. But you are going to find motivation maybe in not the exact way you want. You're going to have an intention of this is how I'm going to create my business or my world, but there are going to be moments that throw you, even though it's the outcome you want, it's the outcome you're looking for, but rarely does it show up the way that you want it to. Rarely does it show up in like the butterflies and rainbows and unicorns dancing around and it's a straight and narrow path to the end. It's you definitely go through the ringer. And so some of you guys, when you're going through it right now, some of you guys have come out of one, you're going into one. When you're in the storm, know that sometimes it's just building that muscle to make you who you need to be to go to where you want to go. So hopefully that helps.
Totally. I love that. I have a million questions for you, but I'm going to try to keep it short because we're going to kind of open it up to the rest of the call in a couple minutes. And I have a question about duplication. How do you encourage duplication in your team and, you know, getting people to the next level?
Yeah, duplication's a tricky question. Actually, I was just asked this at a Super Saturday. I was in Phoenix, Arizona last weekend, and I was talking to Tracy O'Malley and Jessica Johnson, and we were on a panel, and they were talking about what's the secret to duplication. And I have this rule. I don't know if I can completely take credit for it. It's just something that stayed in the back of my mind since I've been very young, called the 30-60-90. Excuse me. And so the idea behind 30-60-90 is, I think what most networkers do is, and I'm going to throw two analogies in here, sorry. Imagine you're an oyster shucker, okay? So imagine you got a bucket full of oysters, and there's 100 oysters in the bucket, okay? And one of those oysters has a pearl. One of them has a pearl. So the logical thing is you take an oyster, you shuck it, you open it up, there's no pearl, you put it aside, and you open up another oyster. The problem in network marketing is most people try to do I pop the oyster up, there's no pearl in there, so I'm going to close it back up. I'm going to think positive thoughts. You're going to be my next leader. You're going to max out. I read The Secret. I read affirmations. I put the dream boards up. And then they look back in there and the pearl's still not there and they wonder why it doesn't work. And I know it's kind of a silly analogy, but the truth so often is that's what we do, where what you really need to get back to is going through the stack. And so getting back to the rule of 30-60-90, it means that let your 30%ers, meaning the people that just want to show up and have a great product experience, let them show up and have a great product experience. Let your 60s, meaning the people that maybe want to do this part-time, will come to some events, don't come to all events, be 60s, and let your 90s, meaning your total rock stars, the ones that want it more than you do, the ones that scare you a little bit because they're going so quick and going so fast, let your 90s be 90s. I think where we get into hot water as network marketers is we see a 30 and we're like, oh, I'm going to make you a 90. And you have this idea where you're going to fix everyone. And in an organization, I think sometimes it's less about how you teach. And this is my point on duplication. It's less about how you teach. It's more about how you qualify. It's less about how you teach and it's more about how you qualify. Meaning most of the people that you will ever work with may not ever want it as bad as you do. Your job is to, as a leader, I believe, identify where people are at and meet them where they're at. Now, people can level up, meaning they can go from 30 to 60 on their own. They can listen to something. They can go to an event. They can go through health of mind and body. They can have a breakthrough. Life can happen to them where there once was a job that's not there, and now they have a reason to jump from 30 to 60. But I think that where we get really kind of tough is we want to fix everybody. And the truth is you just got to do more of the do. The cream will always rise to the top. And when you know you've got someone that's not just you got to pull along, but they're running with you, right? They're outpacing you at times. That's when you know you got someone that you can actually duplicate and teach, and they're hungry to learn it. I don't want to take this whole segment, but we do this kind of idea where we'll always give someone fundamentals. Like I think everyone deserves the ability to get the basics, however that's possible, through videos, through conversations, through whatever. And I think that what I always try to do is give them a small test. just a small test to see where their commitment level is. So if someone says, I want it, I'm going to do it, I'm going to say, great, here's your basic fundamental information. Maybe here's how to do a post. Maybe here's how to connect over the phone. But I might give them a small test like, hey, I want you to listen to this podcast and write me one sentence about what you took away. Or I want you to pick up this book and read the first chapter. Or I want you to make a list of 20 and send it to me. I mean, just the small test of it, because how you do, right, the small things is typically how you do everything, right? How you do one thing is how you do everything. And so I think when you get people that you see the greatness, but they just don't, no call, no show, or they return their product, we try to go back and try to get them to do the work. The truth is they're letting you know right then and there they're not the right person to duplicate. So again, I don't know if that answers your question, but I think it goes back to qualifying sometimes more than actually teaching.
Yeah, I totally appreciate that. I think that's the one thing that I needed to hear tonight. I'm sure some other people can relate. So being respectful of everybody's time, I'm going to open up the lines for the next 4 minutes. If anybody has some questions that they want to ask Jason, and then we will wrap up the call.
Hey, Jason.
Good.
Hey.
How's it going?
I'm good. How are you? Sorry, I'm trying to find your face on the mounds of people. So if you don't mind just saying your name, where you're from, that'd be awesome.
Greg Eastman, San Mateo, California.
What's going on, brother?
What's up? I was from Canada before. I just recently moved here, so I'm kind of allowed here. So I question about emails, and so there's the Bay Area Ultimate Frisbee League. I emailed them kind of like, I'd love to volunteer for you guys. And they were looking for some like fundraising tips. I'm like, hey, I got a great idea because we're with Isagenix. We have some leeway with how to make money for people. He messages me back. Am I allowed to share my screen so you can see the email?
You can just walk me through it.
Okay. So he messages me back, and part of the email, he's asking, what company do you work with? Now, I know how some people are with when they see MLM, because on Google, Isagenix is MLM. So I kind of wanted to stay away from mentioning my company. So how would you respond to that email in terms of answering that question? Would you ignore it? Would you say something else?
Are you trying to get in and hopefully be a fundraiser for them? Are you trying to recruit them? What are you trying to do?
So what I'm trying to do is show them what Isagenix can do. And then I would recruit the club leader. He would recruit, or he would present the opportunity to his volunteers and employees. And then we do like a big kind of like health challenge between all the parents, all the kids who play Ultimate Frisbee, etc.
Sure. I'm not, and Tina might do something different. Lina might do something different as well here. I think for me personally, I'm not one to shy away from when I'm having the conversation. The only time I don't say Isagenix is on social media, so I can control the flow of information coming back to my page. People saying, what do you do? What is this? What's this really about? Outside of that, I'm really upfront with people. So if someone says, what's your company? I might say, it's a company called Isagenix. Have you heard of us? We're based in Arizona, health, fitness, nutrition, and I'd love to show you how we could help your team out. Now, if someone comes back to me and says, is this network marketing? Like I've done cold market a ton before in the past. Look, absolutely it's network marketing. What are your thoughts on network marketing? What do you think of network marketing? Some people love it, some people don't. So I wouldn't shy away from it, to be honest with you. I would just tell them what you are. It allows you to save your time, and more importantly, it saves them time too.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Bobby, I know that you have a question that you wanted to ask, so if you want to jump on.
Hey, hello again, Jason.
Hey, Bobby, what's going on?
Another day, my friend. Just first and foremost, thank you for joining us tonight. Really appreciate your time. I know everybody here is learning a ton. I've got a few pages of notes already. My question is a two-parter, if you don't mind.
Sure.
First one is, our generation is extremely social media savvy, but I have a feeling that a lot of us tend to ignore the bread and butter of network marketing, which is actually face-to-face prospecting. So if you could tell us which social media you use and how much time you spend social media versus face-to-face. And the second part of the question is, when prospecting, we are part of START, so which is 18 to 35. And I think a lot of us are a lot more comfortable talking to people in that age range.
Yep.
Could you give us a few tips on how to get outside of the age range and to not be afraid to go talk to people who are quote unquote more successful than us?
Got it. So lots in there. Lots of great questions, Bobby. So keep me on track if I don't answer one of your questions here. So which social media do I use probably most? Definitely Facebook. I think I'm on the older end of the start community, so I'm 34. So I think sometimes it's looking at where's your wheelhouse, meaning where are the people that you're trying to prospect at? And so for me, my wheelhouse right now is very different than when I first started network marketing. So most of those are parents. So, I mean, young parents for the most part. And so, I mean, Facebook is probably my bread and butter, a little bit on Instagram. I think it's so seductive. I've even moved, like literally on my phone, I've moved the button to not on my homepage anymore. I found myself and my team spending a lot of time on social media, just scrolling through and seeing what all your friends are doing on Facebook. And it really can suck time. So I'm really diligent about, I mean, I'm probably not the best person on social media, to be really honest and transparent. It's something that I didn't start with. But if I can get one post out a day, or one every 5 days, or 5 a week, I guess I should say, I will actually set the time to think about my posts, write them out, and then just go online, take the picture, and send them out. So I try not to spend a ton of time on there. I don't know if that answers your question. That's probably where I start.
It does.
Sorry, you had a really good, go ahead.
I just said it does answer the question. Thank you.
Okay. So you had a question on you said how to get out of your demographic. Is that correct?
Yeah, correct. So how to not feel intimidated by approaching people who are older and quote unquote more successful than us.
Yeah, it's a great question. So I think that this is two-parter, and it's a challenging one because it's where I started. When I started at 18, 19, the challenge for us was most people at 18, 19, some of you guys are great exceptions to that, and there are a lot of them in our company. I think at 18, 19, there's a lot of people that, number one, aren't worried about their health, or 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. They aren't worried about health. They're more worried about, do I have money this weekend to go to the bars and buy a beer? Like that's what's most important right now. So you get a lot of people that come in, but they leave really quickly. I think what's great about youth is there's no stigma. There's very big open-mindedness about starting a business, but there's not a lot of follow through. I think the sweet spot in start isn't necessarily age, but it's the fact that someone has had life experience hit them upside the head. So maybe they started went to school, got a great career, but realized that career meant more time away, meant more responsibility, meant that there was some sort of pain from that experience. Or you find someone, let's say like a Peter Kelly in the world, who came from a challenging background, right? Mom taking care of all these kids, money wasn't always prevalent. So she had a strong reason and desire to want to go do something different. I think you look at any of the start ambassadors, they have life happened so that they're more open to it. They're more open to finding a solution. So I would say that sometimes it's not always about getting out of your age demographic, but there's a phrase I really like right now called psychographic. That's just the psychology of your demographic as opposed to just age, income, range. But most of the people that I work with or find in the start community that do really well is life has had to happen. Could be a health challenge, could be a financial challenge, could be just incredible life experiences that have already happened to them, that they have a desire where they understand that they don't want to trade always time for money, or they realize that time is finite right now. So I think trying to find that is really important. I got out, and this is the second half of trying to answer this question for you, Bobby, is I got out of my demographic, not always based on who I knew. So for example, I had a core group of friends, and the way that it ended up growing when I was young in network marketing was I had a brother, I had someone that I sponsored whose older brother was 28, who then sponsored someone that was in their mid-30s, who then sponsored someone that we had a whole demographic of people that were typically mid-40s building the business, and it just seemed like everyone could afford the product. So I think we all have a certain person that we relate really well to. That doesn't mean you have to jump out of that immediately because you have rapport and you attract a certain type of person, right? Like I'm not going to necessarily, like I'm not a fitness instructor, I'm not a health and fitness person. People see like, oh, Lori Harder or Angelique Norrie, like I got to go recruit oxygen cover models. And the truth is that's great, but that's typically not, if you look at you, unless you're that type of person, that's not necessarily who you're going to attract. And sometimes you got to look at what your wheelhouse is. Who are the people that I like being around? Who's the tribe in the group that I want to attract to me? Because you, Bobby, will attract, your perfect people based on who you are. I think it's sometimes just trying to identify what are the best characteristics of the people that I attract. Are they self-motivated? Are they driven? Are they willing to not quit the first sign of challenges out there? But more importantly, have they had life happen to them? So,
thank you so much. Appreciate it, Jason.
Yes, not a problem.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We are going to wrap up this call, but I appreciate you so much for jumping on this call. I have pages and pages of notes, so everybody give a good raise the roof for Jason Lew. Thank you.
Thanks for having me, guys. It was an honor to be on here tonight. Yeah, I mean, if you're on the journey, I mean, stick with it. The last thing I'll share with you guys is, I think sometimes just staying in the game a little bit longer, past that point where it's challenging and it's tough, just staying in it sometimes is all it really takes to be successful. Because just being in it long enough, being around these people, being an entrepreneur, sometimes it just takes, it's much longer than you want it to be. Like, I wish you guys could all be Laura Stevens, or I wish you guys could all be, you know, the rocket ships that go from 0 to nothing overnight. But for most people, it's going to be a journey. And sometimes just sticking through the tough parts are what separate the people that are successful versus the people that quit. So thank you both for having me on the call today, and it's an honor to be here with you guys.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
So, before we jump off, you guys, we're going to do our group pick. Okay. Excited? Those of you that have your video hidden, if you guys want to show your face, we'd love to see you. You don't have to. Make sure you're dressed. Okay. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Yeah, let's do one more. Let's do one more. Just for fun. Awesome. Jason, thank you again so much, my friend. We're so grateful. Ready? 1, 2, 3. You guys rock. Make it an awesome night. Okay, big love to you. Mwah.
Awesome, guys. Just a quick wrap up. Next week, we have a Isabody Challenge Focus Week. We have a starter in the spotlight, good friend of mine, Jacqueline Pannock. We have Rob and James talking about belief and Isabody, and we have a very special guest trainer, Jason Snyder. He was an Isabody shout out nomination, I believe. Super awesome, cool guy, great to learn from. Our start video or the call that we are on today will be available by midnight tonight. So please share this call, and we will see you guys next week, 8 p.m.
Bye, you guys. Have a good night.